Welcome to the About Sex podcast. I'm your host, Angela Skirtu, and you can find me at www.therapistintlouis.com, or of course this podcast, www.aboutsexpodcast.com. And today is a very special day because we are day drinking sex therapists on the episode. So I have with me Angie. Do you want to be Angie or Angela, Angie?
I am Angie, but
Okay.
I write it out as Angela.
Okay, so I'm going to call you Angie and I'll be Angela. So Angie Schubert. And then I have David Lay. It's Lay, right? Not like Lee. It's Lay. Like you're laying
It's
someone.
lay. Like as in, yeah.
As in, let's get laid. And we're all day drinking.
And we're day drinking.
Oh, what are you guys drinking? Let's start with you, David. What's your drink of choice today?
Bourbon.
Ooh, yummy, yummy. Go on.
With a little bit of ice.
Ooh. What about you, Angie?
Vodka with club soda.
Oh, now I know why you're being so wild. Vodka, soda, and grenadine. And of course, I'm doing a Pinot Grigio. And I actually sent everybody this fun picture of my wine cork stopper, which is this. There's a guy with a very, very nice dick. But he's not very good looking.
It is a very thick dick, though.
I was
proportionately.
I'm like, are we doing a show and tell?
I'm probably going to put a picture of this guy on the show since it's weird. All right, so you're both sex therapists. How long? I don't care who answers first. You could start talking at the same time. No, I'm just kidding. Like, how long have each of you been sex therapists or been in the sex therapy field?
Go ahead, David.
I actually started working with sex offenders probably in the mid-90s and transitioned to working with alternative sexuality kind of crowd around 2005, maybe. I've been licensed as a psychologist since 2000. And I finally got certified as sex therapist with ASECT, maybe 2015. But I've been doing a lot of that work, I guess probably almost 15 years now.
I've heard that story a lot, actually, where most people have been doing the sex therapy type work for a while, but then they finally get certified. And David, just real quickly, what makes you kind of cool and special so that people can hear?
Well, I mean, I have several books out. The most well-known one is called The Myth of Sex Addiction, where several years ago I did a deep dive into the world of sex addiction, trying to identify whether it was, sort of a legitimate kind of concept. And I walked away arguing this was mostly a religious, very heteronormative, monogamy focused concept that had been, frankly, misapplied as a clinical concept. And interestingly, I think that book came out in 2012, maybe. All the research since then has really supported me. And the neat thing now is that, we're pretty clear that people who identify themselves as addicted to porn or sex aren't having more sex or more porn, watching more porn than anybody else. They have religious conflicts with it. They were told, if you do this, you're a bad person. And then they do it. It feels really good. It's fun. It's exciting. And then they feel like shit afterwards.
Yeah, they feel shamed because they're like, oh my God, I did this horrible thing. I'm so terrible.
Right. Yeah. So that, I kind of kicked that sort of stuff off, and it has really taken off since then, and I'm pretty pleased.
Yeah, so David's the bad boy of the sex therapy world. Now, Angie,
or the savior.
Or the savior. Whatever, you decide. Angie, what got you into the sex therapy field? How long have you been in it? And what makes you awesome as well?
I feel like that's loaded because I imagine that anybody who goes into the sex therapy world likes sex or is interested by sex, and it's been something across one's lifespan. But I think that for me, my origin story has been always just an interest in sexual desire and what that looks like, and really like the social messages that surround sexuality as a whole, like the whore and the saint, that always baffled me. I'm like,
Oh,
how
I
can
love
you be
whores.
both? Right? I love whores, like, and I love
Oh, they're
saints.
great.
Like, why can't you be both? And why do you got to be judged? Um, and so for me, really the catalyst of it was when I was in undergrad and I was a CNA, and I walked in on an older individual who had Alzheimer's, and she was masturbating, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, get it." Like, and I shut the door and I was giving her privacy.
You're like,
And
get it,
the
girl.
right? I'm like, hell yes, you can't talk. You have no control of your bowels. You have no agency whatsoever, but you do have the ability to use your hands to pleasure oneself. So I was inspired and at awe. And the charge nurse immediately removed her out of that space, washed her hands, and put her into the community space.
That's so
And ever
weird.
since, I know. So ever since then, I have been fascinated by, again, these social mores that somehow dictate individual experiences that are um, that are molded and shaped by one's own life's course, and also influenced by social expectations. So I've always involved the conversation of sexuality. Unfortunately, it's expensive to become an ASEC sex therapist.
Mhm.
So I chose the path of academia and received my PhD in 2015. And last year, I really took the sex therapy certification seriously. And now I'm under supervision of Nellie Cannon out here in Denver. And he's amazing. But yeah. What makes me unique and special?
Yeah, tell
I
us your
have
specialness too, of
no
course.
idea. I am a bona fide weirdo. And
You do have blue hair.
I always have, yeah. I got the blue hair. I don't mind drinking at 11 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, you know, and I guess
Ooh.
like what I think that I enjoy about myself is my ability to hold a lot of space for a lot of many different types of agency in terms of sexual agency, whether you're asexual, whether you're oriented or interested or desiring something that may be taboo. I'm like, let's do this. Let's talk about this. Let's peel it apart. Let's honor the parts that feel good. Let's explore the parts that feel yuck.
All right, guys, I want to ask you something really
Yeah.
serious here.
Ooh.
Why do you think people are so weird about sex? Like,
Uh,
seriously weird.
because they have to talk about it to understand it.
But they don't
I mean,
talk about it. Go on, David.
I think we're programmed to be afraid of it.
Yeah.
There's the, um, religion. Religion serves a lot of valuable functions, but historically, religion was a way to control conception.
Mhm.
When people were young and didn't have, the ability to support kids. And so,
Hmm.
by making people afraid of sex, it tamped it down a little bit. But we live in a very different world right now. And the thing I think that is really unfortunate is that for many people, being afraid of sex actually decreases the self control that you have over it.
I know. People do crazy shit as a result of that.
Right. And and the more taboo we make something, the more scary we make it, it actually increases the excitement for some people. And
Mhm.
as I've worked with people who get in trouble for sexuality behavior, whether it's sexual offending or infidelity or secret masturbation or whatever, I mean, the simply increasing the ability to integrate that sexuality into yourself and acknowledge it as a part of yourself increases self-control, decreases shaming, and it really changes people's lives. But we've been taught that sexuality is something you should deny, and that you're a better
Mhm.
person. You're a better person if you are celibate. I
Which
just
is crazy.
ultimately
I won't
disagree.
live that
Yeah.
lifestyle ever, ever. But you're right, David. People are crazy like that. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to call people crazy, but I am drinking, so I'm going to call people crazy more. But really, you're all okay, and I love you all. But like, here's the reality: it's crazy to deny your sexuality. We're very sexual people. We like, you want to, like, to your point earlier, Angela, of like the person who's masturbating. She doesn't even have her wits, and she's like, you know what, this feels good. I'm doing this. Like,
Yes.
at our very core is our sexuality. And if we are denying it or afraid of it, it really screws people's lives over. What are your thoughts, Angela? Angie.
All of the above.
I know. Ange. We'll call you Ange. It'll be fun.
And I'm all right with that. So I think yes.
You're like, I agree. Whatever, Angela.
Because I mean, it's so complicated. Like, I feel like when you really look at sexuality, most folks, like you were saying, David, like they look at like they look at like the more conservative notions of what sex means, and that could be reproduction, and that could mean um, spilling the seed, and and it's so archaic and conservative that if you're going down that road, like, yes, like all of that seems really foreign or anti um, one's life, I guess, or following the rules of the mores of their own community and culture.
Mm-hmm.
um, but when I find, even like for folks who think that they're more liberal minded, like they're okay in quotation with the conversation, but when you get really deep down, it's such an unsettling experience to think that one doesn't understand one's body. One doesn't understand what one doesn't even know that they can have an orgasm or what that orgasm might look like. And
My
because it's
God.
not something that is accepted, I think, in just everyday conversation or education, or even promoted as like, yes, you wipe your ass with toilet paper. You use, a pad or a tampon or something else whenever you're on your menstrual cycle. And so then what do you do, whenever it comes to sexuality? Well, there's so many wonderful things. What do you know about your clit? Oh, oh. And it's like,
Oh,
no, really.
it's
What
wonderful.
do you know about your clit? Like,
I
is
know
your clit
so
your
much
friend?
about my clit, and I really love it. I really love her so much.
Oh my God, I love her so much.
David, did you want to comment on some of that?
Well, Angela, you're in Missouri, and
Uh-huh.
one of my favorite all-time writers, from Missouri, Sam Clemens, Mark Twain. And did you ever read his essay about masturbation?
I did not, and I'm excited. You
No.
should send it to us.
You should you absolutely need to read this, and
Wait,
Okay.
all
Mark
of your
Twain wrote
listeners do.
something about masturbation?
He did. That's
Yeah,
what David told us.
Shut
it is called The Science of Onanism.
up.
Ooh,
And it is absolutely tongue in cheek. The one of the funniest things I've ever read. And
really?
onanism, you mentioned, and I'm Angie, you said spilling the seed, and um, it is often claimed that the Bible condemns masturbation, and
Hmm.
they cite the story of Onan,
Oh, yeah.
saying that this is a condemnation of masturbation. Well, and that's what Mark Twain is kind of riffing off of, and talking about masturbation as this incredible secret pleasure. But the story of Onan is actually really interesting because it's not about masturbation.
It's not.
Um, yeah, Onan was part of a tribe of Jews that practiced what they called Levirate marriage. And
Hmm.
in Levirate marriage, when a man's brother died, he was supposed to have sex with his sister-in-law so that any children that were born over the next few months would be genetically related to the dead brother
Hmm.
and would inherit the dead brother's wealth. Well, Onan was kind of a douchebag, and so he
Hmm.
screwed his sister in law. But rather than inseminating her, he pulled out and he ejaculated on the ground
Yeah,
because
so it was pulling out. It wasn't masturbation.
that's right. And it was not even just pulling out. It was about greed because
Mhm.
Onan wanted his dead brother's shit. He didn't want any kids to inherit the stuff. He wanted it. And so the condemnation against it has been understood as being a condemnation against masturbation, but it's really not. It's a condemnation against selfishness.
Yeah, but
And
David, it's really important to understand that it's really actually about that now the new sin is pulling out. So if anybody pulls out, they're going to die and go burn in hell. And everybody needs to understand that. Okay, go on, David.
Well, I mean, I just think it's so funny how people, we are just so instinctive to react to sex with fear and condemnation, and we miss the more important points oftentimes.
I agree. And I got to talk about some of this archaic stuff in terms of I guess how it impacts my life. So I'm with a new life partner, in case people don't know. I have since divorced, actually, David, since the last time you were on the show. He actually was on the show the last time I had my ex-husband. But now I have a new life partner and we're putting things together and exploring things like what if we combined insurance? But so I won't name the religious group that he works for, but he's an IT guy. He's not quite religious, but whatever. So he works for a religious group. And in their insurance, one, if you're not married, they won't cover your insurance. But then two, even if I did get the insurance, guess what I don't get, guys? Birth control. Is that crazy?
No kidding.
Yes. So even if I get great insurance, by the way, religious insurance is the best insurance that exists, but not for any sort of birth control.
Birthing.
No, because they still have this archaic thing where they're like, no, why don't you just not have sex? That's how you keep a baby from happening. I'm like, fuck no, I want to fuck. That's what's happening.
Would you suggest that we pull out every time, or?
Actually, it's a sin now, Angie. We just figured that out. We can't do that. I don't know. So I don't know. So what do you think, Angie, about I don't know, some of these weird policies like that, whether it's insurance or I mean, it can be like your nurse lady that took the poor lady who was masturbating and put her in the public. What's going on there? Damn it. That's what you think, damn it, I'm sure.
I always find it very interesting, especially when you look at the policies that are put in place, especially for women and women's reproductive health. And I always find it very interesting that somehow it becomes this lobbying ploy that people use for their particular platform. And it's not like it's something that has been set in stone and somehow people are rebelling against it. When you look at birth,
are we rebelling by having sex,
or rebelling by not wanting to get pregnant? I mean, I don't know.
Ooh,
but if you look at the
bastard.
history, if you look at the history of birth control, if you look at the history of abortions, if you look at the history of that, you'll see sort of very similar to that of rated movies. The movies that are rated R or explicit or G or PG vary depending on the time in which the rules are in place. So you could see that prior, it's not like something that's always been static. Everybody hates it. Nobody thinks that, everybody agrees that nobody should be spoiling the seed and everybody should be pregnant. There were times where people were more aware that having a baby is problematic when you don't have resources to take care of them, or it's become many, many reasons why there shouldn't be a baby that comes out of this. And yet people use that to, again, like what you were saying, David, like this whole concept of fear. And the most bizarre thing about it is one, that people know that they can incite fear by bringing up this old stuff without it even being empirically based, and people believe it. And the other piece is that they feel the need to do it in order to control something. Me personally, I feel like everybody should mind their fucking business. And I don't know if you're cursing on this, but here we go. But If I want to get my an afternoon delight, and then an hour later, like I'm doing my everyday thing, like how is that anybody's business?
What are
Well,
your
the
thoughts, David?
research shows that people who have more sex are more productive at work. So rather than scheduling lunch breaks, we should be scheduling sex breaks and,
I
you know,
concur.
Yes.
increase the effectiveness of our employees.
Yes.
Angie, I will say though, I am disappointed in you because you did not mention PG
I'm
13,
sorry.
which then draws us down. I don't know if you guys remember. I certainly do. PG 13 rating was created because of Indiana Jones.
Really?
Yeah, the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom movie where they had the eating monkey
That was what
brains
turned
and
it
stuff like
13.
that.
And he stuck a hand into a heart. I loved that. I
That's
watched it
right.
again and again and again as a
Right.
child, which I don't know what that means about me, but go
I love
on,
it.
David.
Well, I think we need more time to deal with what that means
Let's
about you,
unpack Indiana
Angela.
Jones and how it got
You guys need to
PG-13.
psychoanalyze me. Like, I think Indiana
Yeah.
Jones is why I'm a sex therapist. I don't know.
Here's a question that I often ask audiences related to some of this stuff is what is the technology that increased the viewing of pornography more than any other historical technology?
The
Internet.
internet.
Nope.
No.
The
Oh,
VCR.
no.
The VCR.
Oh, the VCR.
because
Oh.
because that led to people being able to bring pornographic men being able to bring porn tapes home and watch with their wives.
Before that, they used to hide porn mags in a tire out in the woods, just so everybody
That's right.
knows.
Yeah.
I always wondered what
I
that
know
tire
I
was doing there.
Yeah,
It's for the porn.
I am the last of the generation that had to work to view porn. We had to go
Oh.
on a scavenger hunt through the woods to find this fucking tire.
Are you proud of
But-
yourself for being a part of that?
Absolutely.
That
Oh, yeah.
tire.
I had to walk uphill both ways in snow.
I had to
through a
be
tire
naked with no shoes. It was freezing.
to find the porn.
To find the porn. You guys just
Right.
get it for free. You don't even have to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, you don't know what it's like. And
Exactly.
now, so the interesting thing though is back in the day, it was VHS versus Betamax, and Betamax was better than VHS, but Betamax lost
because of porn. Because of porn.
Wow.
Because Sony, which owned Betamax, refused to allow people to make porn on Betamax. So VHS let it. Now, cycle forward 25 years, 30 years, and Blu-ray versus, I think it was HD, and Blu-ray won and dominated the market because Sony, which owned Blu-ray, allowed people to make Blu-ray porn. And so
porn is leading the way in technology. That's what you just told us, David.
Always.
Oh my God. Thank you, porn.
Every new technology involves sexuality in some way, shape, or form.
Of course, because we love it so much and we do need it secretly somewhere. That's so interesting, though. I love these stories where you're like, oh my God, that's where it came from. Okay, so what do we need to do to help people be better about sex? Go.
So it's interesting that you say that because I feel like when I see my clients, most often they're like, oh, it doesn't fit into this whatever vision that they have of either themselves as sexual beings or their marriage as sexual beings and or their life as like a person who has had a child and then that sexual life afterwards or any other. And it just somehow doesn't match. And in my head, and in the conversation that we're going through is this whole unpacking and unburdening of this desire to fit into any one category or any particular story or narrative of what your sexuality and what your expression and your identity and your interest and your arousal and your desire are supposed to fit into. When I see like couples and they're like, oh, our sex life has died down and or we became lazy in this and that, and it doesn't fit because we should be this and we should be that. And I'm like, well, think about Albert Ellis, because he said, don't shit on yourself and masturbate. So how do we get to a place where we're not shitting on ourselves and masturbating all the time? You can masturbate, but not masturbate. How do we do that?
Wait, is that why you say oneself a lot? Because you're trying to like be very universal?
Yes. Like,
I knew it. I knew it. It was all a hoax.
you gotta fucking fix it. Like, in the end, like, you yourself as a human need to, at least in my impression of things, like, how serious.
Angie, I'm an alien. I'm not a human.
Right?
You guys should know this.
I'm a cyborg. Like, anytime I think of like any conversation like that, I'm thinking, and so how do we chisel that away? All the pieces that don't reflect who you are as a person, and mold it into a more modified, authentic you.
David, what do you think about that?
I love it all. I mean, I Angie, you got me. I didn't know that was a quote from Albert Ellis. That's brilliant.
She is brilliant.
But I didn't know about PG-13 and Indiana Jones.
There you go.
We're all learning so much right now, guys.
One of the things I'm doing lately with patients is I've developed what I call a sexual values questionnaire, and I'm asking people to identify the things that are really important to them in good sex. What are the things that really are critical for them to enjoy sexuality? And, it might be novelty, it might be intimacy, it might be emotional safety, it might be, excitement. And
it might be pegging.
It might be pegging. And then I'm asking them to also identify the things that they, are disgusted by in sexuality, that they just can't really even abide. And then as I work with couples, I'm overlaying those two things. Hey, look, these are the places where you guys match. These are the places where you guys don't match. There are even some apps that are doing pieces like this as well. And I think that what I work towards, kind of like Angie was saying, is I'm trying to help people integrate their sexuality, because what I find is that most people, we only think about sex when we are turned on. We don't think about the things that we like sexually when we're not turned on, because that's when we can think about, am I okay with myself as a person that I like pegging, or that I like,
it's okay if you like it, David. Right. You just need to own who you are.
Absolutely. And bring that big cork thing my way.
I know. I have a big cork for you right here. It's ready to cork your wine any day.
Absolutely.
I like big corks. I cannot lie.
I got big corks and I cannot lie. You other sisters do not.
David, you're saying good things. They're very important things.
I love it all.
Actually, David, as you were talking, I was thinking, at first I was looking at my shiny shirt because I'm wearing a Harley David shirt with a lot of rhinestones. They really like what was that thing that they used to put rhinestones on shirts? Do you guys remember the thing?
Yeah.
What's it called? Somebody tell me.
God.
I can't remember the stupid thing. This bejeweling.
Is it a bejazzle?
Okay. But anyhow, as you were talking, yes, but even I was also thinking intelligent thoughts as David was talking. And one of the things I was thinking about is how important it is for people to talk about their values and like share what they like and what they don't like. And when you talk about integration, so I just want to like even break that word down for like my listeners, because I have listeners of all kinds. All integration is you just are who you are. You accept your sexual interests and desires. And like, that's not somehow hidden in like a dark closet somewhere that you can't tell anybody about. And you know what? I love the metaphor of the closet. I know it originally came into vogue because of gay people kind of coming out and saying like, they're coming out of the closet. This is something they hide. But the reality is when I was growing up, I realized that there are a lot of ways that people can be in the closet, so to speak. And what it looks like is just hiding parts of yourself, hiding your erotic interests, hiding your desires, hiding the fact that you are a sexual person. I am shocked again and again that there are so many people who say to me, I'm not a sexual person. And I'm like, well, wait, what do you mean? Like, how do you define a sexual person? Why is that so evil to you? And to me, it's crazy because it's like, wait, every human is a sexual person in some way. You have your own way of being sexual. But I just feel that integration is about like opening up the door, so to speak, coming out of that closet and not having a hidden part of yourself, but being open about these are the things I like. And it doesn't mean you're masturbating in a grocery store, because honestly, right now with COVID-19, you shouldn't anyways. But don't. But what it does mean, it just means that you're open about the fact that you like sex. Maybe you're open about the fact that you share affection with your partner or that you like to go down on them. And it doesn't mean you have to put it in every conversation, because I've learned people don't like that. But I know I had to learn so much. I sometimes think I'm autistic. I don't know. But anyhow, like, it's just about being open in a way that is like respectful, that still, I guess, I mean, like, but even as I'm saying this, I'm like, I don't know where all the social norms are. And I don't know if I like what the social norms are. Does that make sense, gang?
Let me just say that there's a social norm that you just brought up, and I wouldn't normally talk about this, but I've had some bourbon, and
that's why we all drank.
That's right. In Albuquerque several years ago, we had this scandal where this woman was in a grocery store here and was offered a yogurt sample. She took a bite of the yogurt sample and then spit it out because she recognized the taste. And
demon?
Sure enough, yes,
that's not yogurt.
Sure enough,
we all know that flavor. I mean,
that's not yogurt. Yeah, the guy who was giving out the yogurt had ejaculated in the various cups.
I said fuck, like, man, that's just like
indeed. So yeah.
Fuck yuck.
Fuck yuck. Fuck yuck. We just came up with a new phrase. Fuck yuck.
Angela said, sex in a grocery store, masturbating in a grocery store. This guy was doing
gross.
it.
Who is this guy? Gross.
Yeah. Went to jail.
Well, I'm glad. I'm very grateful for that.
I feel like that all lends to this piece about sexuality, like this piece about, like, for when you said, Angela, like when you said about being sexual, like, I'm not sexual. By you identifying as somebody who's not sexual, you are sexual. You are orienting to an element of sexuality. It is a paradigm. It is a and so then it really, the honoring of it is just honoring where you are, no matter where you are. And whether it's affectional intimacy or intellectual intimacy that gets you off, nerding out is totally hot for me. If I hear like a super nerdy podcast, I'm like, fuck yes, bring me the vodka and my play toys. Like, I love it.
Oh my God. I still always love the IT men. I definitely know nerdy. I love nerdy. And actually, hold on. Like, you're right. And actually, something I was thinking about with that sexy stuff is that actually the usual
I'm
woman.
Curious about this
so I've said actually woman, 5 times. Definitely drunk. Okay. So no. The usual, I shouldn't say that. The usual person I see who says I'm not sexual just is uncomfortable with being seen like that slut you mentioned earlier. Remember, Angie, how you're talking about like the whore-ish? They don't want to look like a whore. When I delve deep with a client, actually, that's what they're talking about as being a sexual person. They don't see themselves as like a porn star or a stripper. And I'm like, you don't have to be a stripper to be sexual. I mean, you can strip because stripping's kind of fun, but like, it looks terrible. Really, you kind of are playing around and you're you're not like, I don't have a pole in my house. You just kind of take your clothes off and throw it at your partner. And, and they're like, oh, you're serious. And I'm like, I know, I'm just being silly, but here's my shirt. Like, that's real stripping. It doesn't really look like that.
I just wish you had taken your phone out of your pocket before you threw the pants at me, because whack.
Oh.
Yes, let's be considerate.
I am always a considerate stripper, gang.
It's funny that you say that about the poll, because if you look at my Amazon
Oh no.
cart right now, it definitely has a poll in
Oh,
it.
you needed something to do. Good for you. You came up with a hobby.
I need a core activity, and my ukulele does not help my core.
Angie, when you go on that pole, I've done a pole dancing class. It really hurts your arms. Like, you will have some serious upper body strength if you do it. Like, all power to those girls, because they are doing
I am
crazy shit.
interested.
Okay. I think we've devolved. David, do you want to interject anything?
David, please bring us back
to logical talk.
I don't know. Is Angie going to watch me interject Angela? Because that's kinky.
Oh my God, guys, I had an idea before this all happened, and now I'm drunk, so it's happening. I thought, if we were all in an orgy, who would be in what position? Go!
Well, David did call me out. I am an observer.
Ooh, oh, you'd be watching, you dirty girl.
I think it's hot. Not gonna lie.
Wow, so you'd just be like standing in a corner. Would you be crying?
No, I think I would be like binoculars and like my vodka.
What do you
like
mean binoculars? You're in the same room. This is strange.
I mean, I don't know how close I am.
David, what positions are we in? Go.
I'm in the corner watching astutely, and I'm making observations like Margaret Mead.
Oh, God.
Gotta bring science into it. Come on.
She geeks out. I love it.
I'm telling you, my nerd is my porn.
Just commit to the experience.
Oh, no, that is her experience. She's an observer. What are you? It's a voyeur. You're a voyeur, right? Like, that's yours.
So truly, I'm an exhibitionist. I adore it. I love like being in public settings and like taking snapshots of my cleavage, and then sending it to people. And
Nice.
I love, like, I did a presentation the other day, and I saw all these really wonderful pictures of these dudes with their boxers and like business on top and party on bottom. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to do that. And my partner took a picture of me, and I was in a business top with like a lapel and everything and no pants on. And it was like, that's the kink in me.
All right, David, same question. We're all in an orgy. What positions are everybody in?
Oh God. Well, I mean, I'm just crushed because last night they canceled Burning Man this year, and
yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, and I've been going to Burning Man for years, and actually this year I was scheduled to give a talk at the Orgy Dome on
good for you.
Yeah, on the history of group sex.
Oh.
And so what that means is that at an orgy, I'm the guy sitting there droning on about the sociological history and sexual practices of group sex as a whole bunch of people are having group sex.
David, that's not
and
fun
I
at
would
all.
be the girl getting all excited about all the nerdiness that was coming out of your mouth as you were observing all of the group sex.
And I'm just like, you guys don't know how to get it on. There's something wrong with both of you.
Angela would be in the group
But
sex.
I accept and love your sexuality and allow you to be who you are. But like, you guys need to think about these things. All right. So something probably more nerdy and probably more practical. So what should we tell the listeners about like how to be better in bed, how to be better about whatever, integrating? I sometimes, like when I'm talking to as I've been doing this more, I just want to talk like a person and less like a therapist. So I know you're sex therapist, and there's a little bit of, I think, of a circle jerk that goes on where we just kind of listen to each other and talk our words. And it's like, fuck our words, like talk to people. So the people want to know, how do we have good sex? What do you guys think they should be doing to be better at it? You can decide who goes first.
Go ahead, David.
Well, a good friend of mine, Peggy Kleinplatz, has just come out with this remarkable book called, I think it's called Magnificent Lovers, or Optimal Sex.
Of course it is.
There you go. And it's a really extraordinary book where she talked to people and she makes the argument, look, good lovers are not born, they're made.
Absolutely. You grow.
Yeah. And
I love that.
And some of the powerful messages in there, to talk like a person, is that you've got to be able to communicate your sexual interests and desires to your partner. And you as the partner have got to be able to listen and hear them and not judge and shame. You've also you've got to be present. I mean, so many people, again, like I said a minute ago, we only think about sex when we're turned on, but the reverse to that is that when you are turned on, you've also got to be present. You've got to be able to be in your body. You've got to accept that your sexuality is a really amazing part of yourself and love yourself for having this crazy kinky desire.
Okay. What do you think, Angie? Did you forget the question?
I really love all of that. You said how to help people have better sex.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because some people.
I could paraphrase.
No, you're good.
I think it's really interesting, but for me, it's very much in line with what David was saying. I think as soon as we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with ourselves and with others, the better understanding we have of our needs and our interests, regardless of where they are. So, I mean, I've gone stone cold. I've had cold months, personally. I've had hot months. I've had hot years. And I think recognizing that sexuality and sexual expression and desire and all things related to it is not something that is static, but something that is ever developing, ever evolving. And when you sort of concede the idea that you are not only part of it's not something that you're watching, it's something that you can actively engage in. So you're not just like on it for the ride. Like, you have your own agency, you have your own narrative, whatever that may be. And if you've never had an orgasm, in my head, like I've especially like when I look at the research right now, where it's like telling, especially women, specifically women, really, not especially, specifically targeting women and saying like, it's okay not to have an orgasm. And in my head, I'm like,
no,
I'm thinking to myself, how many avenues have you reported and supported in order to say that? Because orgasms, like if you look at Beverly Whipple's work, if you look at any of and Bassen's work, like if you look at their work, like you see that orgasm can be achieved far many different ways than just
and female orgasm is
and
so wonderful too. Go on.
Yes, like for me, it's like to help people have better sex lives, like fucking blow up whatever preconceived notions you have about sex and create your own narrative, because your body is going to respond to the times very differently in one space compared to another. That's why people are making comments about how this pandemic is going to be like the next boom, because you are facing each other if you have a partner in your own space. And you're either going to be like, ugh, I hate your fucking face, or put your face down in my crotch. Like, there's I
like that.
Like, right? So like, and both things may happen in the exact same day, because there is no seasons right now. There are no seasons. So it's just a matter of just taking some ownership and accepting the vulnerability and creating that space for you to do that kind of work. Because in my mind, all my clients, all the people, even my 7 and 8 year old, everybody has agency. My daughters all the time are talking, like I had somebody going like, oh, well, your daughters talked to us about the vulva today, and they're 7 and 8. And I was like, well, did they use everything accurately? And they're like, well, yes, we got a full anatomy lesson. And I'm like, well, you're welcome.
You're welcome. You needed to learn. Angie, I want to tell you something about this, something you said that I thought was super important, that just like really hit home to me, was like, you said cold months and feeling kind of like, here's how I call that. I call it dead inside, where like, I feel numb. And like, I've had that. So, all right. Oh, a little self-disclosure. I actually do that more now. You guys don't have to, but I do, and I feel like it's very valuable. I've started to learn, like, I pay really close attention to my body, and like when I'm feeling kind of
Mm.
numb or dead inside in terms of sexuality, because I'm one of those, like, I really truly believe that sex therapists or people who are in this field, we love sex, like you said, Angie, a while back. Like,
Mhm.
there's a reason you're drawn to it, you care about it, you feel like I'm one of those sexual people, right? So anyhow, like, I pay very close attention to my sexuality in terms of my happiness, my depression. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not, because when I'm more sexual, I know I'm in a better place. When I'm less sexual, I know I'm in a worse place. And there have been times
Mhm.
during this, guess what? This is coming out during the COVID-19 pandemic. In case you
Mhm.
all didn't notice, we're in a pandemic crisis. It's crazy. So, like, it's been interesting because I pay attention to my body, and there have been times where I'm like, I feel dead, and I'll tell my partner, I'll say, I I don't even, I love you and I'm a sexual person, but I feel nothing right now. And it's nothing to do with you. This has to do with how I feel about everything that's going on. And the crazy thing, like, I have a lovely, very accepting, supportive partner who's like, yeah, I get it, like, whatever. But like, it's been interesting to pay attention to my body because I do feel integrated, like David's been talking about, where you just feel like completely connected to who you are as a sexual person. You're like, these are the things I like, these are the things I don't. This is just who I am. Fuck off, right? That's integration to me. Okay? And so, like, it's so integrated that I can tell how happy or not happy I am based on my ability to tell my desire level, like understand where I'm at in this moment or this moment. And like, I'm like, oh, if I'm dead inside, I'm actually feeling kind of depressed. Like, there's a lot going on in the world, and I don't feel sexual. And Angie, you were saying earlier, like, hey, people are going to have, you didn't say this, but coronials, people who are going to have babies at this time. I honestly don't think people are going to have coronials unless it's a first time child, because the other people who have children, all their children are on top of them all the time. And it makes us like want to scream. But
Mhm.
anyhow, like, for new partners, I do think people are going to have kids if it's just like couples without kids, or if they actually have a space or boundaries to be able to have sex. But it's just interesting to see how, like, I think when you're integrated, you actually can, like, your sexuality or your ability to engage in your sexual desire is very closely linked to your happiness or lack of happiness in life and your sense of like being together.
I did have a thought actually in response to that. So, um,
Yes.
when I wrote my third book called "Ethical Porn for Dicks: A Man's Guide to Responsible Viewing Pleasure,"
Ethical porn for
and
Oh, yep,
dicks.
yep.
seriously, and it's a it's a picture book because I wrote it for guys about sexuality and about their relationship with pornography, and it made me it made me really think a lot about kind of my relationship with pornography and masturbation, because these two things go together. And um, during it, my wife and I had this really fascinating conversation, and she said, do you remember, 20 years ago when we were living in Houston and I was going through residency? And she said, there was this period of time where you were watching porn and masturbating, and I wanted to have sex. And I said, gosh, I realize now that at that time I was under so much stress. I was under so much personal, professional stress that I didn't have the emotional resources to have sex. I just, I want to be a good lover, but I couldn't be present enough or mindful enough to be a good lover. And all I could do was kind of veg out in front of porn and masturbate and try and get through the day. And I think that's part of what people are doing right now with COVID, are just trying to get through. But
Yeah,
B,
absolutely.
I realized, through that we don't give ourselves permission to sometimes not have the capacity to connect with another person, and to that we are just trying to sexually survive.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was the thing that kind of came to mind for me, Angela, as you were talking about that, because it was funny writing that book helped me kind of make that realization. And the challenge was, at that time when I was 25 or so, I didn't have the language. I didn't have the vocabulary or the emotional maturity to communicate that to my partner. And I wish that I could give that to more people, the ability to say, hey, look, this is where I am right now sexually. If you want to meet me there, great. But I don't have much. I don't have much flexibility right now just because of everything else that's going on.
You know, David, I want to add something to that and check in with Angie. But like one thing that I think of is that people don't, one, have the commitment to their sexual relationship that I probably do as a sex therapist, because I'll be honest, I put a lot of pressure on my sex life because of what I see in the office. Like I see people not having sex for years and I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hurt my partner. But I also realize how important a good sex life is to a relationship. So I put probably a more pressure on my sex life than most people do. But a second thing, just being real, I'm being real. But
Love
a
it.
second thing is that I don't think people like, because they don't have that same commitment to this is important and we each have to put effort into it and it's like a two-way street. Then there's that second thing that you were talking about, which is like, hey, being able to communicate that I'm not there. Like I'm somewhat there, but I'm not fully there. And like that there be a permission or a compassion between partners to just say, it's not happening today, not because I don't love you, not because you're not important to me, but because I feel fucked. Like it's COVID-19, the world is falling apart. Like I gotta tell you, 2 weeks ago, actually it was just a week ago, like I was at a playground. I keep telling this story, but I was at the playground when the worker guys came and shut down the playground. They
Oh,
came and
wow.
they said, you're not gonna like us, but we need to shut the playground down. And my daughter says, goodbye, playground. Goodbye. And I was like, I know. And
Oh,
I know, I fell apart and I said, well, the hard thing is I have an only child, right? So like before this occurred, just a little context. Um, I was making up friends for her because she didn't have friends. And she got to the playground and she said, where are the friends, Mom? Where are the friends? And I'm like, they're not there.
mm,
Let's just make up friends. So I was like, okay. And so we had made up like these kids, like just random, we made up like fake friends. So there were 3 friends from her school, of course, their names. And then they closed it down. Like when I already felt like a failure as a
Oh my
mom.
gosh.
And so I was like, well, we already made up friends. We're just going to fake a playground now too. I went crazy. I fell apart. And like the reality
Oh.
is, I know it was horrible, but that was my bad week was last week. And I was just crying a lot. And I told my partner, I was like, I love you. I want to fuck you. I know you're important to me. And this is an important part of our lives because I actually have a commitment to my sex life as a sex therapist because it's super important because of what I see. But at the same time, I needed to just be able to say to him, and I did. I said, I'm just not there. I feel dead inside. Like I feel numb. And I'm a sexual person. I don't usually feel numb, but right now I do. And he was like, babe, it's cool. Like I love you. This is where you're at. Like I'm here for you. And I just feel, to your point, David, that people need to be able to express that. Like if you're in grad school and like you barely have any energy to survive, like we need to like communicate our commitment to our sex life, but also our like a deep respect and acceptance for here's where I'm at right now and that's okay and I hope you can be okay with that. Does that make sense?
mhm. It's funny. My daughter is very much in my head right now because I was having these connections to both the story by Angie about her daughter and this Angela, the story about your daughter. Because, my daughter, I picked her up at daycare one time and they said, your daughter, who was, I think she was 1.5 at the time, was going around telling everybody, boys have penises and girls have vaginas. And they were really troubled by that. And I said, well, hey, that's great. She's right, and then Angela, the I have one hand. I was born with one hand, and one of the things I do when I work with kids is I draw a little face on my nub, and I use it as a puppet to interact with kids so that they can interact with my arm without fear because kids are
Yeah.
shamed when they
Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
attend to people with disabilities, and so. Um, my daughter, though, she decided that Mr. Sloopy, who is the character that is my arm, was her best friend. And so Angela,
Aw.
when you said you were making up friends for your daughter, that's what I did.
Yeah.
and Mr. Sloopy was my daughter's best friend. And one time I actually got a little hurt, because she said, can I talk to Mr. Sloopy? And I was like, well, that's me, right? You can talk to me.
She doesn't want to talk to
No,
you.
it's not
No,
Dad.
And
you're not
and
the
and
same.
yeah, and she said, "Yeah, Dad, I know. Now can I talk to my friend?"
She
So
just liked that version of you. That's really
yeah, that's
interesting. We could
right.
really
Yeah.
break that
Yeah.
down.
But
So
she's watching she's watching the sex education show on Netflix, and
Mhm.
she shows it to friends and potential boyfriends and stuff, and she says, "Just so you know, this is my life with my father
Ah,
as a sex
I
therapist."
bet. I bet. I worried when I watched that show. I totally worried that my daughter, like, oh my God, that's what I'm going to do with my kid, my poor kid.
Yeah. Except that, I think that hopefully we're all raising kids and a generation that views their sexuality, as a part of themselves and
Yeah,
not something
yes,
that we should pretend doesn't
outside.
exist.
I agree. Angie, where are you at with all of this?
Oh man, there's so
I
much.
know you're just putting it all together. I can tell.
I was gonna say, you want to guide me on like where to move
I don't
forward?
know. What do you think? What do you think we should be teaching our kids?
Well, for me, I find myself in a beautiful state of hypocrisy all the time. To be quite honest. Um, because I feel like agents, again, I always say agency, like, and I've never heard it before, so I doubt that I made it, but it's there. So sexual agency, like the ability to be independent and independently think of one's own sexual experience no matter where it is. And to believe fully that you have the freedom to influence your own sexuality in whatever capacity it needs to be. But for me, I do find myself sort of like falling back on old roots, changing it up so that it makes sense when I get another breath, fixing it and revamping it. So if people are listening and trying to figure out, like, what do I say about kids? First of all, your knee-jerk reaction may or may not be great. But the beautiful thing about children is that they're so fucking
I do
resilient.
like that.
If you provide them, once you're able to not be so, when your lid is not flipped, in terms of that just response, if you have the ability and the vulnerability and the courage to go back to it and say, yeah, no, like it's all beautiful and it is all what you create,
Mm.
then that's okay.
I like that.
I think, especially when especially when I think of like, like, when am I going to teach my kids about I've been writing a lot about masturbation lately, and like the notion that even though my mother was sexually liberal, and truly that is such a big response. It's like my mom was sexually liberal in that she spoke to me about her sexual interactions, but never did she express the importance of sexual agency in a comprehensive way. So I knew what to say no to, but I did not know what to say yes to. I did not know what to say in terms of like diddling my own bean. I did not know what to say in terms of exploring my own body. And I just celebrated my 39th birthday and found one of those toys, talking
I
about
do.
one of those toys, one of those clitoral stimulating toys where I finally found like my O in terms of like expediency, like dudes can get and collectively
Dudes.
people with penises can get off far more easier than I have ever had in my entire life. And with this beautiful I call him Bruno or Bruce,
Oh,
sorry,
Bruce.
Bruce.
Like it. Like it.
I call him Bruce because all my toys are men. I call him Bruce, and
That's so
Bruce is
heteronormative of
amazing.
you.
And but all of my penetrative devices are male. All of the others are women,
Okay.
and so I don't know. Maybe it is heteronormative. You're
It
right. I need to
doesn't.
look at
No, you
that. But
don't, Angie. Just do what you want to do. Like seriously, don't overanalyze it. Just enjoy
don't
yourself.
do it, Angie.
It's gonna
I
ruin your
would say
life.
So
that
anyway,
that definitely is a thing. I mean, I think we as sex therapists can be too politically
yes.
correct, too in our
We really
heads,
can.
Mhm.
too
Yes.
tentative, too
Too judgy.
You're right.
and I think that is a place where, Angela, as you said earlier, we have to be human,
Yeah.
Mhm.
for our patients to be able to engage with us, and it's okay. It's okay for us to have those biases and judgments, those instinctive reactions,
You're
those.
saying it's
Um,
okay for her to like a dick.
that's right. It is okay for
Okay
you to
for
like
you
her
to
And
like
dick.
it's
it to
okay
be a dick.
for my vibrator to be named Bruce.
I know. That's
Okay.
so masculine of your vibrator.
I know. Well, so and there it is,
Mm,
right? And so
mm,
that's what I'm
just
saying.
like
Like
it.
in the end, as a 39-year-old who's been sexually explorative for as long as I can remember, I have found my O in a very beautiful, time efficient,
I love time efficiency. We're so busy all the
time
time.
efficient, but truly just for me, like
Hmm.
just for me. And it's fantastic and it's wonderful and it's selfish with the big S, not the little s. And it's
I'm so
incredible.
proud you found
And
Bruce.
oh my God, I fucking love Bruce. And Bruce would not have come out if I'd not had 3 drinks,
You
Angela.
know what?
Well,
You just
Angie,
need to own who you are. Go on, David.
Girl, I own it more than I should.
Angie, tell me more about this. And I just tweeted it out. This
Oh no.
a beautiful state of hypocrisy. I want to understand
Oh.
that.
Mm.
It is a compelling statement.
Right?
It
Break
is.
it down for me.
Just the notion that, you're supposed to play it off as if you know everything. And in the end, you still are trying to learn. And
Yeah.
so thinking about like how to navigate those conversations with your children because you want them to be the best you, and yet you're still fumbling around, you're still trying to find it in the dark, and you're still trying to get a good place where you are, but you see and hope that they may get there faster because of this wisdom, and yet
It's
it's
their
not always
journey.
working
It's
for
still their
you.
journey, but that's really cute. You're like, maybe you'll figure this out quicker than me because I
Right.
fucked it up.
Fuck.
But
If you can find your
hopefully,
clip before I can,
Mhm.
woohoo
oh
to
yeah,
you.
find your clit, find it as soon as possible.
Find it. Find it, own it, love it.
David, why do you like that so much? That phrase.
I think again it's this embracing of, yes, I know I have to pretend I'm on top of everything, but I am fumbling in the dark just as much as we all are.
Yeah.
Angie, I like it because it gives us the permission to be human, in a way that I think. You know, there's so many people out there today who are just so certain about everything. They are certain that vaccines cause autism. They are certain that chloroquine is the treatment for COVID. They are certain that, this is all fake news or this, that, and the
David,
other
you know
thing.
that certainty is kind of dangerous, though, right? Like people who are certain like that often know
Exactly.
nothing or like kind of
That's the
dumb. And
thing.
I'm not supposed to say that word politically correct, but like they tend to not be pretty intelligent if they're that uncertain.
I I'm the guy who's never really been certain about everything.
But maybe you should
And
own that.
right.
It's
I,
the owning it that makes you wiser.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
That's so
Well,
sexy.
well, that's the story and my original degree is in philosophy. Is that
Mm.
Socrates went on a quest to
Mhm.
find a wise man, and he found all of these people who told him that that they were wise, but with each of them they had flaws. And finally, Socrates realized that and honestly, I can't remember if it was Socrates or Sophocles, but I'm sorry, but Socrates realized that wisdom is knowing what you don't know. Um,
recognizing that you don't know it all, and like I think it's the journey towards searching for it too, like that you recognize that there are so many things you don't know, but you're not like, I just don't know it, like it's God. It's like,
mhm,
no, like I don't know, and I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna like take as
mhm.
much time as I can to find it because I want to find it. Like that is sexy. Angie, I understand your nerd geeking out sexiness because it's like, oh my God, he wants to learn so much about life, or her. But still, oh, it is sexy when people want to learn. So sexy.
Well, I think the reason why it's so hot is this idea that being so static in the end, it stops you. It it prevents you from growing and learning and meeting like the true human capacity. And the fact that we are mortal, we have this precious time to learn about ourselves, to learn about our being. And really, Angela, like when you were talking about your body, like I do a lot of EMDR work and I explore a lot of nonverbal language. And like our bodies are, in terms of like when you look at like mental health, it's like our bodies are the
They really
first
are.
responders, right? They truly are. They move, flinch, like lubricate,
Mhm.
stiffen in response to environmental stimuli, but also our brains. And when we don't pay attention to our bodies and when we don't pay attention to the nuances of our own interests and desires, and we become kind of go into a state of like a meh or a perpetual funk, and without any interest in really looking, I mean, that's like the sadness of the
That's when you're
human experience,
depressed.
I think, because it's only when you really dig in deep, and it doesn't matter where you are in terms of sexuality, like just like owning where you are in that moment and recognizing that it may very well change and alter depending on the next day, depending on the new experience, depending on the next fuck, depending on the next
Ooh, oh no.
You never know.
You know what though? That's so cute because I mean not cute. Like I don't want to like diminish. Cute sounds diminishing. I'm so overthinking always. Even when I drink, I
See,
overthink everything.
see.
It's destroying me. See, I thought I might like not overthink if I drank some, but I'm like, oh, I just become more aware that I'm a sex therapist and it's really important that my audience is supported and taken care of. But like, no, like I do. I feel that sense of like I'm really connected to my body and I'm so grateful for it because actually just a year ago when I was going through my divorce, I was going through a pretty severe grieving process and it was so weird. So all right, I'm going deep, guys, sorry. But like in March of last year, and it's funny that it's March this year too when everything fell apart, but in March of last year I kind of had a breakdown, and in my breakdown I was shaking or numb, and I was like, "Whoa, I think this is the stage before somebody might try to kill themselves." And it was so weird. And I'm not like saying anything mean here. I'm just trying to like explain like the
No, it's the
body
experience
experience.
though.
Like it was weird because I didn't get there, but I could tell I was close. And it was weird to feel that. But like I personally think because I am very, very connected to my body and I have learned this integration. I've spent all this time like, what is my body? That I can kind of sense stuff like that. And I was like, I better take care of myself. Like seriously, take care of myself right now, or bad things really could occur. And I just think that a lot of people are very disconnected to their bodies. And as a result, it makes it very hard to make basic decisions. And I'm not saying, so David, you were talking about like logic stuff earlier. I'm not saying people should just make decisions fully on their feelings because you still need research and logic. So, like, I kind of see it as two things. One is feeling your feelings and sensing your intuition, but a second thing is always questioning. And that's where logic and research comes in, where you're like, you know what? I don't know everything. And it's really important for me to take in new information and pay attention because if you don't, you can fuck it up in that way, right? And for me, it's about a mix of the two. It's about like feeling my body and feeling my feelings, but it's also about like taking in as much information as possible so I learn as much as I can to really grow as a person. And I think that mix of those two things is what creates this like I guess that mindfulness DBT thing that they're talking about where you're accepting but you're also like thinking of your logic mind.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a long diatribe, guys. I know.
Love it.
Sorry. That's what I do when I drink. Just
Mhm.
talk. So, okay, we're at the end. Like, we're way over the end. So, like, final thoughts for everybody listening. Whoever wants to go first, Angela or David. I think you both have added so much tremendous, awesome
Well,
things
Angela,
to this.
you're Angela. Angie can talk if she wants, but I don't know. Is there another Angela on the show that snuck on when I wasn't watching?
No, I call her Angie or Angela. She and I go back, it's a thing.
All right.
So, David, what
Whatever
are
she
your
would like me to be.
thank you.
Oh boy. Oh boy. This.
Whoa,
Are
we're
you sure?
flirting now.
Are you sure we need to end? This is getting good now.
This is just when it starts. Well, I mean, I could go forever, but I was trying to be respectful of your time. But to be honest, nothing's happening. We're all just stuck
Oh,
in
really?
this COVID
Just
crisis.
brag a little bit, Angela. You can go
Oh, good.
forever.
Ah,
Try that with a penis.
I kind of. I mean,
The
oh.
penis wakes up, the penis parties, the penis sleeps. It's all bueno.
God. All right. Here, I will designate. Okay, Angie. Final thoughts that you want to share with our listeners about life, sex, love, and politics.
Damn.
Your call.
So
I know. I just
loaded.
made it very broad.
Fuck.
I
So
know.
I think that all podcasts should start off with pre-gaming with alcohol. B, I think, I still follow this train, and maybe it's because in my world there are no. It's sort of like Hawaii right now. If you've ever been to Hawaii, when you think that it should be fall and it's not, and if you think it should be winter and it's not, and you think it's summer and that kind of matches. There are no seasons right now to the world that we live in the world that we live in currently. And it's indefinite because the date of like this all being over is not clear. And so, especially if you're cooped up in your home and you're trying to figure out what to do with life and navigating the common stressors of your everyday role in conjunction with being around folks who you love, you are now close to and facing like every single day, just recognizing the importance of finding that space for yourself. And if you are in all of this thinking deeply and philosophically about your own sexual being, your own personhood in terms of where you are in life, diddle your being, see what it looks like, see how it reacts, see how it responds, play with different things, play with your partner, because everybody has time right now, so why not? But also in relation to all of that, listening to especially what Angela was speaking to, your body, and in terms of what your body needs and what it wants, and if it desires some alone time, then honor that, and if it desires some collective time with the folks that are around you, explore that. But I think in the end, I guess what I'm gathering from all of this is that there is very very Dr. Seuss. There is no other like you. You are the only you in the world.
You're
And
special.
there's no reason to comply to any script that is beyond you, and that you have the ability to navigate your terrain and allow folks into your own world and to explore and to become wiser as a result because of your own exploration and your own vulnerability. So you do you, boo. That is it.
Angie, also plug your website.
Oh, I don't have a website.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm the president of the Association of Counseling, Sexology, and Sexual Wellness.
Ooh,
Our
okay.
website is www.counseling.sexology.com.
Okay. That was
Did you
good.
say com or cum?
Yeah,
It's all the same.
Because I say that and I'm like, I forgot it.
Angela.
CounselingSexology.com.
All right,
Um,
Angie.
you know,
Fun.
and this shameless plug truly is that counselors, mental health counselors, um, there are only there's only one major leading body of accreditation that speaks to counseling field and how we are trained, and that is CACREP, um, which I'm not going to be able to tell you that acronym correctly. So
Yeah.
if you're interested, look at CACREP, and then you can find out what those letters mean. But it's the Council of something accrediting. Nope, I'm not going to do it.
It's okay, Angie. You
Thank
don't
you.
have to. Thank
I
you.
don't have to, so I'm not gonna. But in the end, there are only three standards for all of the counseling field that speak specifically to sexuality, and two of them are in vocational rehabilitation in counseling, and one of them is in marriage and family focused counseling. And the general population of counseling programs and counselor education programs do not have a requirement. Those are the only three standards that speak to sexuality. And so the association that I co-founded, we are creating training opportunities, creating empirically based research that speaks to the efficacy of being trained in sexuality for counselors at large, and then the efficacy in terms of what we can offer our clients. And so that's what I do on the
All right,
side.
Angie, I love you, but I gotta stop you for
I
a
know that's what
second.
I got. That's all
All
I got.
right. I can tell that drinking makes you talk more. Oh, shoot.
No, it's
All right.
definitely
So,
I talk a lot no matter what.
no worries. But now I need David to tell us the answer. I don't even remember the question.
You
David.
talked about plugging your website, so I got into a different
Angie,
thing.
I know, Angie, it's fine. Just self-soothe for a time. David, what are things you want the
You know,
listeners to hear, and your website as well?
yeah, I mean, I just say that everybody needs to give themselves permission for things to be difficult, things to be hard. In this COVID crisis, I mean, I can't tell you how many patients I've talked to where I've said, yeah, of course you're going stir crazy. Of course this is challenging. This is supposed to be hard. It's not easy. Um, the message is that the same thing is true with our sexuality. We think that it's supposed to be easy, it's supposed to be simple, it's supposed to be clear, but it's not.
It's a lie.
And yeah, and the more we beat ourselves up for struggling with this thing that we think is supposed to be easy, the more pain we create and the more struggle we make. So I'll quote, a therapist that I saw years ago who said, David, you need to be more empathic with yourself. You need to be more compassionate with yourself. And I think all of us need to implement that same lesson right now just to get through. I hope that all of us come out of this experience a little wiser, a little softer with ourselves, a little kinder with ourselves and our loved ones, because that's the ultimate lesson of these kind of challenging experiences.
What's your website, David?
I have a website.
You do?
DavidLayPhD.com. I think there's also stuff on X Hamster, so you can find me there too. Yeah.
All right. Thank you both for joining me. And you have been listening to the About Sex podcast at www.aboutsexpodcast.com. You can also find me, Angela Skirtu, at www.therapistsinstlouis.com. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, David and Angie. And stay kinky, St. Louis.